my signature move. Now, I might say that being an aspiring would-be YouTubing superstar, which has always been my intention. Well, I mean, I had a couple of ardent fans come to my channel and say stuff that doesn't make any sense to me and puts the whole thing in a new light. This thing of putting out content. Now that I'm finally getting what they call engagement, as in comments, likes, shares, it would seem that I have a moral obligation to provide value, of course, that goes without saying, but moreover, guidance, in as much as it occurs to me that there are actually an incident in northeast Calgary. A lone Texas Ranger type patrol vehicle moving off into the Hinter Blues. Guys, what blows my mind is that people listen to a failed marketing consultant with really nothing to show for himself. Now granted, my wife owns a lot of property, but as for myself, I am a poor man, and I believe that poor and obscure is where it's at. Now I want to say again, if Joe Morganti is listening, I owe this whole turnabout, this whole new light to Joe. The new light, like the light of day, which is declining there in the distance. Hey Joe, where you think you're going with that gun in your hand? He said, I'm gonna shoot my old lady. I caught her messing around town. Joe, I'm very humbled by your comment, in as much as you calling yourself a friend of mine, or rather a fan of mine. By the way, guys, Joe Morganti and I worked at Oracle Corporation in Toronto, starting in 2010. Joe was the dude who ratted me out to HR because I called a yoga teacher. I made some salubrious comments about our yoga instructor downstairs in the corporate gym, and it was my deductive and analytical skills that allowed me to arrive upon the conclusion, which later Joe conceded in his silence, later turned out to be the case. Joe, of course I don't mind the fact that you threw me under the bus and were going to get me fired from my dream job. I told the lady, the HR recruiter or whatever, I said to her, you know what? This is like unbelievable. It's like a dream come true for me. I hero worship Oracle and Larry Ellison. I know you guys' history. I'm a goddamn 70s technology startups, aka Silicon Valley buff, lady. She was like, well, maybe you could refer me to some other people. Guys, poor and obscure. Part A. Part B, I forget, but I do want to talk about poor and obscure. Oh yeah, well, I mean, I might as well talk about the whole bipolar thing too, right? Bipolar, it's a label, just like everything else in your mind that you attach yourself to. Those things, you might call them, if you're like a fucking, sorry for swearing, but if you're like a scholarly or academician type, you'll be like conceptual framework, or you'll be like mental models, right? Don Juan called it worldview, but that's something different actually. What I'm talking about is labels. So, for a long time, well, let me put it this way. I still haven't found the answer to the thing, but for a long time I considered that there may not be such a thing as the I, you, yourself, dear viewer, right? So I don't want to stand up and walk around, right? As much as the scenic aspect is very enticing, just because I'm very concerned about the wind, right? The wind. right? So I'm just going to stay perched on my step over here. So the wind affects the audio, and you know, there are some productions or movies, skits or whatever, like I retweeted this thing with Ali G interviewing Donald Trump, and I tweeted it with the comment, you don't even need to unmute this. I'm very, very sensitive to background sound and interference and all this kind of stuff. So my whole thing is the information I'm trying to impart, less the surroundings and this whole Don Juanic Chaparral type of motif. Guys, the Buddha, the famous Buddha, Siddhartha, Gautama Siddhartha Buddha, the man of the moment and every moment, as it were, right? Now, in case you start saying, well, he's a Buddhist, of course I'm a Buddhist, and you should be one too, right? But that's a separate point. Now, I might as well clarify, right? Buddhists say that, oh, well, Buddhism, it's religion agnostic, right? Buddhism is religion agnostic. What does it mean? It means that, oh, well, you can be a Hindu and a Buddhist and yada yada. And so I bought into this, and I do buy into it. I mean, even with people who espouse these things have no idea what they're talking about, because if you read Buddhist texts, there are references to demigods and deities, right? And then there is belief in reincarnation. Reincarnation is a claim that many people just take to be a given. My whole thing with Buddhism is this. Like, I've studied every single thing I could lay my hands on, frankly. Tibetan Book of the Dead, Bhagavad Gita. I've read the Sikh book. I forget what it's called. Sikh religion is very cool, by the way. The Sikh gurus, they suffered a lot for their religion. Like, one of their gurus he was walled. A wall was built around him and his son, at least one of his sons. And he still didn't retract his contentions. And what was his contention? As far as I'm concerned, his contention was there's one God. That's what I was saying in my last video, the meltdown, the meltdown in Fish Creek Park. So, part of this was just to show you guys I'm doing just fine, right? And I wanted to explain that. The whole supposed bipolar thing. I say supposed because, once again, if you push anyone's buttons sufficiently, they will exhibit what you guys call bipolar symptoms. They'll go manic, and then when that crashes, they'll be depressed. And at that point, it's like up to the person. You can either let yourself be pulled back into this state of normalcy that is essentially espoused and promoted by, well, it's not verbally, it's not talked about, of course. Social indoctrination is not something people talk about. No one will ever say, well, I mean, your mom might, basically. Your mom might. She might say, well, she'll say something to the effect of, you have to be a good and upstanding citizen. That's the whole purpose. My mom would say things like this. What's the purpose of this whole thing? The purpose of upbringing and all the struggle and education and the sacrifice and whatever it is. Right, nowadays out here in the West, anything goes, man. If I see some kid, like I did actually see a kid on a three-wheeler a little while ago, but some kid racing across the desert in a dune buggy. No one's gonna ask about the dude's character or integrity, or if he's a gangster, or even an ex-convict, or perhaps even just an outright criminal. You gotta understand, there's many people out there that just don't adhere to the system of laws and rules, and even this social indoctrination, or even common sense to a large extent, right? And these people will basically just do whatever they like. I mean, I call them criminals, but then bankers are also criminals, from a moral perspective. They may not break the law, right? And in fact, bankers empower these other guys. So bankers are criminals because they just steal from people. I've said it again and again, like in the distance over there, like this is such a great little spot, right? Because you've got the Rocky Mountains over there, but over here you've got like the city, like downtown. You can kind of like see, right, that in between my fingers is downtown, right? And then obviously it's just the wild west, literally. It's literally the Wild West. So this being Alberta, right? I mean, we're one province east of Vancouver. Vancouver, or rather British Columbia, you wouldn't consider British Columbia the West, right? Because it's a very unique place. I mean, apparently Vancouver or British Columbia has the only rainforest climate in North America, I've been told. Now, having lived there for years, at least like 2.5 years I lived in Vancouver, you know, and I've been through there a few times since then. But yeah, man, I remember one March where it rained the whole March. There was only 27 hours of sunlight in the whole month, which is insane. It's an hour a day, right? So that's what that was, right? And you know, it's like the two sides of a coin. Well, it rained. I mean, because obviously you've got people out there and it's like, well, it rains all the time in Vancouver, man. It's like I just got back. Stefan, if you listen to this, please don't mind me saying this. It pissed me off and I'm going to put it out on here. I got in touch with this buddy of mine from Bulgaria after like years. He came to visit me when I was living out in Vancouver, just starting on my path towards like a 10-year corporate career in software sales or whatever. I say whatever because, I mean, you know, obviously once I had achieved that dream or whatever, it sours on you very quickly. I don't use the H word as in hate a lot, but I hate the corporate world. I hate it. I hate the corporate world. I just hate the corporate world. Once again, these bankers, they're the whole problem. I was going to say the biggest buildings in any city are always the banks. I'll tell you this. If you live in a metropolis, the big 5 buildings in your downtown core, 5, are going to be banks. I don't know why this is. Go check it out, and I'd appreciate your comments on that little point. In Canada, the big 5 banks are Bank of Montreal, Scotiabank, Royal Bank of Canada, Toronto Dominion Bank, or TD, and then it's like CIBC, Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce. Like, I was a security guard in the building across the road from Scotia Towers in Calgary, in Toronto. Beautiful, big, gleaming pink building, right? I had a kind of like meltdown with one of my ex-girlfriends, Daniela Cerra, in the RBC building. TD building, I've had encounters with security. I mean, like, I'm just saying, like, you know, with regards to Toronto, like, that's what that is, right? It's hard not to let this thing affect you, guys. It's hard to stay humble when you realize that people are actually listening to your nonsense and actually paying attention, right? So it's like, okay, now I'm doing fine. Okay. I forget what I was going to list out, and frankly I don't care. Now I want to say this. I've studied it, right? I've talked to obviously more psychologists and scientists and doctors and nurses and health practitioners, and I found than you have. So I'm more qualified to discuss my condition from just that perspective, irrespective of me being the one going through this experience. I'm not here to justify being bipolar. I'm here to say you're bipolar too, and here's why. Your brain, as a result of repressed anger is a problem, guys. Imam Ali said, peace be upon him, that anger is temporary insanity. And if you don't say sorry or feel sorry afterwards, the insanity has become permanent. So here's the science of it, and it's kind of mysterious. But really, it's of urgent importance that people understand what I'm about to say, which they don't and may not ever. They may not ever. A given person may never understand or think about or be exposed to what I'm about to explain to you, and what I'm about to explain to you can alter the course of your life. Repressed anger is what causes stress, anxiety, depression, repression, expression, oppression. Let's just say all the essions are called by repression of your anger. I was talking about indoctrination and social conditioning. Please don't think I don't understand the necessity for an ordered society versus anarchy and total chaos and people running rampant and everyone doing what they want. That being said, anarchists will say that society self-organizes. This is what, if you're interested in that line of thought, this is what that thought process is, and it comes to an interminable conclusion, meaning that there may be more. Very quickly, my beautiful atheist friend Dennis Mikhailov, hi Dennis, what happened to the blog, buddy? He'll be like, what? You were meant to get back to me. We started this blog, he's an atheist, and I remember his funny comment, right? He was like, yeah man, I'll do this blog. And so for your two viewers, as in yourself and Judith, you guys can. He was actually right. Actually, it was after meeting Dennis that I realized that atheists are the most intelligent. Dennis is. You guys, like, people say to me like, or rather, okay, my elder, because you gotta guys, you like. This is one thing atheists have taught me. You have to verify things. Like things in general, like let's just say things for now. So for example, reincarnation is a claim. It's not a given. It's not a fact. Like Buddhists will say, well, we reincarnate and blah blah blah, and eventually you could come back as a spider beetle or those beetles that roll those balls of dung. Imagine, hey, you think you got a bad life? Imagine that was your lot in the universe. You'd be on the edge of this little thing here, and your whole deal would be getting from there, and if you got up to here with this ball of dung, that would be considered a good week for you. You'd go back home, they'd be like, yo, he's the man. He's the beetle man. Inna Allah la dhul fadlin ala nasi. God is full of favor for mankind, full of blessings, full of grace. Right? He's given us lives full of blessings. And guys, I've talked about the fact that anyone can be a believer. This is the case. I don't know if anyone can be a Buddhist, but anyone can be a believer. And I've started saying, just put an extra O into God. If you don't like God, just put an extra O in there and call it good. Anyway, so indoctrination and repressed anger. So here's how it breaks down. Okay, so thank you, Joe. And the guys who've been leaving comments and stuff, like some guy was like, hey, I'm here under 70 subscribers, and it blew my mind because I saw what he was seeing. He was like, wow, this guy's gonna be famous, and I'm his 70th subscriber or some nonsense. Guy, I'm sorry to break it to you. I've been at 60 subscribers for like 5 years now, right? I don't count my subscribers, and they're not important. Guys, you won't believe this, and I hardly do. My buddy Jerome Robinson from the University of Bridgeport, well, he was not at university, but that's where I met him. And that's how long I've known him. And that was circa 94 to 98. That's Bridgeport CT, niggas. Hartford's the gun capital of America, apparently, or the murder capital. Hartford, Connecticut, like the capital of the state. And if there's any Connecticutonians on here and they're like, hey man, why are you gonna bat us like that? I'm not batting you. That's a fact. That's the whole thing. It's a fact. So guys, so thank you if you're watching. I appreciate it, you know. I mean, I've long ago dispensed with like most formalities, let's say, vis-a-vis the art, as it were, and the, you know, science of YouTubing in as much as production. And like, listen, I try and make a good video, and it's for myself. This is my therapy, by the way. I might as well tell you. You think anyone's gonna sit down and listen to something like this for like, what now, 20 minutes? Hey man, I'll be like, hey man, let's go get a coffee, bro. I need to let loose some steam. And he'll be like, sure bro, sure. And then you go over and you're just pacing around in the coffee shop for 5 hours like Abraham Lincoln would do this. I've mentioned it before. It's amazing. He was an amazing guy. I've been reading up about him. Well, at least I've got an audiobook of his autobiography, not auto, but the biography of his life, right? And it's unscripted. So let me, like, you know what? Let me just give you a little practical thing that you can do, which is awesome. Scribid, Sierra, Charlie, Radio, Indigo, Bravo, Delta. If you're familiar with Scribid, you're probably, like, their branding, obviously they need some work on that, but you associate them directly. They need so much help with their marketing. It's so, like, they're such a gold mine. And I think personally that Amazon probably has sent spies and people around there to keep them on a certain path. I literally think this could be the case. Audible, if you go to Audible, which is owned by Amazon, Audible is the monster, like the Microsoft or one of these banks in the audiobook world. Audiobooks could change this world. And these guys have clamped down and they want you to pay for. Listen, I respect Jeff Bezos. You cannot not respect the dude who's more or less entitled to be called the richest man in the world by most estimates, and these are not my estimates. You know, people with a net worth in the tens of millions consider him to be the richest man in the world, not a schmuck like me. Like, for an average schmuck like me or you, it's like 10 grand is like a lot. You're like, whoa, 10 grand. 10 grand is a damn house payment. That's all it is. 10 grand is like, you could like scrape into a house for 10 grand, right? You got 20% down or 5% down or whatever kind of rubbish, or you got these new house buying kind of. Oh God, I keep pressing buttons on this thing. You know what? I may need to get a new phone. I mean, here's the thing. I have an iPhone. I have, like, I don't even know what it is. It's like a 5 or 7, or it's not a 5. My favorite iPhone is the iPhone 4S, period. That's it. I mean, that's it. The thing, like, literally, you can kill someone with that phone. Kill a person. You can kill a person with by stabbing him in the jugular with that thing, right? So that's pretty cool stuff in my world. iPhone 6, I was working at a condo and some guy comes back and the guy turns out to be like, I mean, there were all kinds of crazy characters living in these condos that I was working in Toronto as a security guard. So I sold software for 10 years and then I worked as a security guard for 7 years, building my business, right? My consulting business. I'm a consultant. I'm a failed marketing consultant. That's what that is. Failed marketing consultant. AKA digital marketer, right? So when you fail at regular consulting, then you realize everything's online. It's just like same with like a regular business. They've been handing out flyers, putting up billboards. Why would you send some dudes out? It's like this great movie, like 3 billboards outside of Ebbing, Missouri, right? But why would you send some dude out with like a can of paint or some nonsense and a ladder, and he's out there all week or for weeks potentially? Like, I write content for people, right? So there's this great, well, I mean, they're the premier company formation business in Netherlands. I'm learning about Netherlands law, Netherlands business right now. Find everything. Why? Because I choose my clients and I choose my gigs carefully. Netherlands, Inco Business Group, Dennis Vermeulen. The dude is like insane. You think I'm insane? Like, this dude keeps going like this. Like, I'm on a Skype call with him and he's like, the dude is like, I mean, in a nice way, but I'm kind of exaggerating it, but he's got so much energy and he's like, he keeps doing this stuff. But by the way, he's grown a multi-million-dollar business. and he's basically hired me as in we have a contract. That's a little tip for anyone who wants to start a business. It's not like you go online and you push some buttons and it's like an ATM with bills shooting out into the air. I used to think that too. Hey, I'll take a course and suddenly I'll be rich. Guys, here's the definition of business. It sucks. It's hard. You do it alone. It's lonely. It's frightening. Elon Musk, who you either hate or hero worship, said the following. It's like Nietzsche. He said, entrepreneurship is like chewing glass staring into the abyss. Nietzsche famously said that, it's one quote, this quote of Nietzsche's, this is one quote. When chasing monsters, be careful that lest you become one yourself, lest you become a monster. And then this is the next sentence, like as if that's not enough. The next sentence was, and if you stare into the abyss long, the abyss stares into you. I gotta get going here because it's time to break my fast, eh? Repressed anger. If anyone's hanging on to that thread, thank you. I appreciate it. Here it is. You are trained by society to repress your emotions and specifically your anger. You see how perfect it is? Anger is madness. Like someone was bugging Prophet Muhammad. Someone was bugging Prophet Muhammad, and he was like one of these Al-A'rab, the Arabs. The Quran says Arabs. It doesn't say Bedouin Arabs. Like if you quote this verse of the Quran to an Arab or a Muslim, most Muslims won't be familiar with it, I dare say. Arab will be like, oh, well, this refers to the nomad or the Bedouin Arab. No, Al-A'rab. And by the way, Holy Prophet was an Arab. There's Arabi and Ajami. Ajam means non-Arab. It's just like Jews and Gentiles. Arabs had the same kind of dig. It's like Arab and Ajam. Arabic, non-Arabic. Like Persia is Ajam. Like when people said Ajam in those days, they usually meant Persia. This Arab was bugging Prophet Muhammad. They're all fucking goat herders. I'm sorry for swearing. Arabs, like, are the worst. I'll just put it to you like that. They're the worst. Muslims, so-called Muslims, they're the worst. Okay, so I'm qualified as a Muslim to say Muslims are the worst. And a lot of them will go to hell. And non-Muslims, for the most part, are better than Muslims. Therefore, they will end up in heaven. That's what the Quran says, right? So if you think I'm just making this up for fucking clicks or something, I'm sorry for swearing. You know what it is? It's like, after so many years, I can't believe it. It's like I'm on this WhatsApp chat with my family, and it includes my nephew and 4 nieces. It's like I've been asking my strange sister for years to add me as a friend on Facebook. 4,500 people didn't mind adding me as a friend on Facebook, but my strange sister did not want to add me on Facebook because she obviously was scared I'd be doing what I'm doing right now, which is influencing the minds of her precious progeny, right? I'd have to assume that would be the case. She thinks I'm a goddamn lunatic just like everyone else. Her whole thing was, you got a criminal streak in you. No, I don't. I have a streak of freedom in me. Anyway, guys, societal conditioning. Okay, here's what it is. This is very important, and it's the reason I'm a calm as shit today. Yesterday is when I had my meltdown in Fish Creek Park. And I know people are concerned, and here's why I'm making this today, so that you can see I'm fine. It's chemicals in your brain, toxic chemicals. Society conditions you to repress. Okay, society rightfully, well, maybe not. I mean, I don't know. Like this whole societal conditioning thing, Actually, you know what? I'm gonna get going, wind or no wind. Here's the thing, man, or lady. Listen, you can't say societal conditioning is good or bad. It's a stupid, it's like saying life is good or bad, or hard or easy, or fair or unfair. First of all, it's perfectly good, perfectly fair, and perfectly easy. I'll just like give you my perspective. On the other hand, I've suffered a lot. And perhaps I still have the after effects of my toxic meltdown, because that's literally what it is. A crisis, they call it in Canada. So I've been exposed to the health services here, okay? And I love this country. I'm a fanatic Canadian. Like, I'm a Canadian jihadi for Canada. Like, if I see something that's un-Canadian, even if it's a white person, like if I see a Remembrance Day, like this flower, what is this thing? The poppy, man. There's a lot of history to that thing. I'll pick it up. I won't leave a poppy in the ground. If you've studied World War II, or if you have any brains or understand the kind of world you're living in, you're not going to walk by a poppy. And this guy, Don Cherry, I think he was right. I don't give a fuck what he said. If he said something like, hey man, these fucking foreigners come here and they don't even take the time to learn about John MacDonald or whatever. I don't know about him either, by the way. John MacDonald, okay. Hey, listen, man. Canadians, fuck these people, man. I know I'm letting it out. I'm doing it on purpose. Right? I was perfectly calm. I'm working myself up so I can exercise the demons. Founding fathers were awesome. Hey, fuck imperialism, okay? And fuck oppression, you know? And fuck capitalism. I might as well say it. It's true. Like, I'm a marketing man and a businessman. Of course I believe in, you know, basically the creation of value and trade, right? And the economic imperative, the natural economic imperative. So capitalists like to, guys, there's something called neo-capitalism, okay? That's the bad thing. Capitalism is fine. Neoclassical capitalism, it's an interpretation which is basically put in place to help global corporations exert their fucking dominance over poor countries, guys. They go in there and they suck out all the wealth of these countries. Guys, India used to be a rich and prosperous fucking nation before the English showed up. Imperialism, literally, I listened to this in an audiobook. It's like, I wish I could just, I wish I could find that, but I got like 300 audiobooks on my saved thing in Scribit. So what I was saying with Scribit is, it's like $9 a month, and you get unlimited audiobooks, and you can listen to them walking around. You don't need Wi-Fi. You don't need to download them onto your phone. They don't even know what they have their hands on. It's just like Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, okay? Steve Jobs and I don't know what I'm doing with these glasses. The thing with the glasses is this. Your eyes need 20 minutes of sunlight a day, 20 minutes of sunlight to alleviate your mood, among other things. Like, it's a cure for depression. Like, I basically knew or know some lady who was CEO of a company that produced these glasses that essentially, they weren't glasses, they're more like these goggles, or like this virtual reality type of goggles or system, and it shoots natural sunlight light into your eyes, because God is great, and we need our skin, like you might have heard or know, produces vitamin D when the sunlight interacts with your skin, or something along these lines. Now, you know, plants turn photons into food, right? It's a pretty amazing universe that we live in. So now, on the other hand, okay, very quickly, repressed anger. So, societal conditioning isn't wrong. Let me just put it that way. They teach you to repress your anger. Here's what this Arab asked Prophet Muhammad. Prophet Muhammad's walking. Arab comes to one side, then the other side, pestering him, asking him, Mahi ad-Din, Mahi ad-Din, Mahi ad-Din, something like this. Mahi al-Islam, not Islam, but Deen, religion. What is religion? What is religion? What is religion? Prophet Muhammad on separate occasions has famously summarized all of the entirety of religion in literally one sentence or two. So for example, another time he was sitting in a tent with some of his companions, right? And anyone who saw him apparently was a companion of his, apparently. But in any case, I'm a companion of his. You want to know what that is? If there's any Sunni brothers watching this, companion is in here. It's not like, oh, well, he's buried next to the Holy Prophet, therefore it doesn't matter that he killed the Holy Prophet's daughter, right? That's not what that is. The guys like Mahi ad-Din, same thing. He was sitting in a tent. Some dude comes up and he's like, sits there for a minute, literally like under 5 minutes. Okay, I know there were no watches there. I know there was no time. And so like you think of a statement of Prophet Muhammad's, you know, hour of thought is greater than 70 years of worship. And people are like, well, there was no clocks back then. Sa'a in Arabic, which currently means 1 hour, just means a length of time, you know, something like this. Like basically it's like going from one scene to the next in a day. Like you're sitting around and you're having some lunch or cookies, and then later on, ba'da sa'a, after a period, like what's the next scene in that day, right? That's what that would be. So now the Bedouin came and he was bugging him. What is religion? What's religion? Same thing. They're sitting in a tent, another Bedouin or whatever, who knows? I wasn't there. I'm just reporting what I have read and heard. Of course, I'm not reporting anything I might have seen. And this is another very good point atheists make up or say. They don't make it up, they say. And you know, I'm not making it up. Let me just put it to you that way. I'm very, very fastidious with regards to my reporting of my thoughts, and I don't lie, okay? And lying is the devil, like Gary Vaynerchuk would say. Hey, bro. And yeah, I mean, I want to wrap this up, but I do want to collect these threads together. So, Mahi ad-Din, the guy was bugging him, and he's walking along. And then he stops and he says, religion is to not get angry. Then he just keeps walking. What's religion? Religion is not to get angry. And he never got angry, by the way. I mean, he got angry once, as far as we're concerned. So, man li hadha al-kalb, who is there for this dog, was when he got angry. So, there was basically, what it is, man li hadha al-kalb, who is there who's going to take care of this dog? Battle of the ditch, Khandak. So, the Prophet had migrated to the city of Medina, okay, from Mecca, where he was born. He used to sit outside of the city of Medina, and he'd open his robe and he'd say, I feel the air of Mecca. Right? So that's when I became patriotic, because till then I used to adhere to this commonly known maxim: patriotism is the last refuge of a scoundrel. And from a rational perspective, it makes sense. It's like, you know, I was born in Pakistan, and therefore I think Pakistan's good. That very quickly that loses its logical appeal. It's just like atheists say, once again, you were born a Muslim, that's why you think Muslims are great. Well, when you say that to me, I understand where you're coming from, but I actually am a student of other religions, many of them, and I still study everything I can lay my hands on. And I'll tell you what it is. If someone can produce a book like the Quran, or a speech like Imam Ali's, or a prayer like our fourth Imams, or a saying like Prophet Muhammad's, or a person like the Lady Fatima, any of these, all of them, any of them, half of them, percent of anything like that, then I'll give you the time of day. And of course I'll change my religion. Of course I'll change my religion. It's not the point. So now, anger, not getting angry. Okay, Battle of the Khandak, Battle of the Ditch, man li hadha al-kalb, the time that Prophet Muhammad got angry was the following. The unbelievers had like an army of 10,000 with horses and spears and cavalry, and as usual the Muslims were just a few dudes with like literally sticks. Like just regular poor people with sticks. It's like Prophet Noah in the Quran. The rich and powerful people used to say, well, all your followers are just poor homeless people, more or less, just like the dregs of society. Like, what's the deal with that? Dregs of society are the real deal, though. This is what it is. It's like the famous Alice in Chains song, we are an elite race of our own, right? Like the street people. I'm a street person. Once you've lived, it's like you can get off the street, but the street's not going to get out of you, right? It's like they say in Amway, you can leave the business won't leave you. He's right. Bill Britt. I'm still an Amway man. Like, I have problems with some of the diamonds, like the fat cats, right? But notwithstanding that, great products, like thousands of millionaires, guys flying around in private jets, and they are the most amazing people, a group of people you'll ever meet in this planet. Like, they've got the jets and the money and all, but they are the funniest fucking people you'll ever meet. They're just like hilarious and insane characters. Like, it's like Kumar said, he's a famous Indian diamond. He said, you got to be slightly crazy in order to build this business. Guys, I know I'm rambling around in circles, but that's what I do. And if you're listening, if you're listening despite that, then I appreciate it. I almost walked past my little turn here. So guys, yeah, this one's a long one. Now, I do want to say, however, they built a ditch around the city of Medina. The reason being that there was a guy called Salman, the Persian as he was known. He had come from Persia. His story is very much like Siddhartha's, Buddha's. Salman the Persian was a famous Muslim character, okay, in Islamic history. His dad was like a king or a governor or the ruler of their territory or whatever that is. And it's like, he was meant to become it's literally the same. He's like the Islamic Buddha, basically. If you want to be stupid and say something menial like that, that's what that would be. Like Buddha was meant to become a priest. Salman the Persian was meant to become a priest. Buddha was like, screw this, and he left. Salman was like, screw this, and they put him in jail. And then they sold him off into slavery, something like that. So it's like, you know, I mean, what are you gonna say, man? Like, basically, you want to do something great in this life, dear user, you know, so you're gonna have to suffer and pay the price. It's like Don Juan says, anything of value is only achieved very slowly over time, step by step. Anything that comes fast is not good, and anything that's good doesn't come fast. Apart from Illa ma rahima Rabbi, apart from God's mercy and exceptional circumstance. They built a ditch around the city, and the ditch was so big that nobody could cross it. It actually worked. Salman was like, well, this is what we do. Because, I mean, he'd be the guy to know. Like Xerxes and the Persians, like, they knew how to fight, obviously. They knew how to win wars, let's put it this way. Fighting is one thing. Winning a war is a very different thing, right? So that's like the art of war by Sun Tzu, obviously. You really should pick it up and read it. Art of War by Sun Tzu and the Tao Te Ching are two books that every person should read. Tao Te Ching is the epitome of peace and passivity, and Art of War is obviously cunning and strategy and knowing that there's people out there that are not like you. You see, live and let live and turn the other cheek, and all this rubbish, this pacific nonsense, pacifism, it's bullshit. There's no pacifism in nature, by the way, okay? Because it's a predatory universe. I just heard this. I was listening to this audiobook I shared with my family about Don Juan and some character who met Carlos Castaneda and wrote a book about it. There's all kinds of people who claim to have met Castaneda and written books, but this dude seems to be the real deal, you know? Because there's no extant pictures of Carlos Castaneda apart from one grainy picture. And there's all kinds of ludicrous stories about him, right? And all kinds of people have made careers out of being Carlos Castaneda students, right? In any case, It's a predatory universe. Predatory universe. What's out there is going to kill you, and what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Okay? They built a ditch around the city, and no one could cross the ditch. And then obviously this brave warrior, I would call him a reckless dude, but because bravery is connected to honor, right, and righteousness. But in any case, there was this brave warrior on the other side. I mean, I don't want to say unbelievers, but kuffar is one thing, but it's not. Kufr means to cover. It was obvious, as far as Muslims are concerned, it was obvious that Muhammad was a great man. He never fought, ever. He never even hit someone with a stick. All he did in a battle once was throw some sand. And Allah says in the Quran, وَمَا يَرْمِي إِذَا يَرْمَى وَلَّكِنَّ اللَّهَ يَرْمَى. When he threw the dust, he didn't throw it, but Allah threw it. He threw dust. Why? Why is it like that? He's Rahmatul lil Alameen. He's basically a mercy. Allah says in the Quran, we sent him as a mercy for all of mankind. Now, Imam Ali, on the other hand, he was Qatil al-Mushrikeen. He was the killer of idolaters. He single-handedly would, I mean, by some reports, he could kill thousands of people. Certainly dozens of people in a battle, single battle. And so, after a battle one time, one of his companions was like, hey Ali, I killed 40 people just like you. And Imam Ali said, yes, but the people I killed didn't have any progeny who were going to be Muslims until the Day of Judgment, whereas the people you killed did. Now that's a strange statement, but that's the kind of thing that Shias believe. Now, they built this ditch, and this dude gallops his horse and jumps over the trench. And then he rears up his horse and he's like, oh, I'm the man, obviously. And he goes right up to the tent of the Holy Prophet. And he's like, who's... Now, the Arabs were, you know, if they had any... They did have a fighting ethic. Like, the ignorant pre-Islamic Arabs, I mean, like, they're the same today, quite frankly. But, you know, there's this thing called the age of... hello up there. There's a lady looking out the window. I'm making a YouTube video, eh? I hope you don't mind. You're going to be broadcasted potentially millions of people now. So now, yeah, the glasses, by the way. So for a manic person, you want to actually cover your eyes from the sunlight, right? If you're slightly feeling edgy and hyperactive and whatnot, then that's why a lot of celebrities wear shades, among other things. Now, so, yeah, well, now, dude gallops his horse, jumps it over the ditch. And then what? Well, what happens is the dude gallops his horse and jumps it over the ditch, right? Then he rears his horse outside it's like this beautiful scene in 300, right? That's exactly what it was. The horse is rearing and he's like, I'm the man. You're the prophet of God, apparently. What are you going to do now? And everyone, the so-called companions or whoever else was there, everyone was terrified. Like, this guy was like, literally like, what would you say? I mean, he was whom Imam Ali became. Like, nobody would want to fight this dude, right? And it's the same with Imam Ali. I don't understand why people even went to battle against him. It's so inconceivable. Like, he killed everyone who came in, who fought him. Apart from, like, for example, you know, one time he straddled some dude, and he was going to chop his head off or whatever, and the dude spat in his face. And Imam Ali got up and walked off, and people were like, what the hell? That dude was like a pretty intense dude. He's going to probably kill a lot of Muslims or whatever. Whatever that was, I don't know if that's the case, or if that dude became a believer or not, or if believer in Imam Ali or a Muslim or whatever. Like, all of this is loaded. I'm just telling you this thing because it just came up in the conversation. I was talking about anger, and I wanted to tell you that according to Prophet Muhammad, anger, not to be angry, is, what is it? That's what it's all about. On the other hand, in Islam, you do get angry, but you get angry, quote unquote, for God. What does that mean? It means if you see some woman getting mugged, you get angry. If you see some poor people getting ripped off, you get angry. If you see some kind of injustice, you get angry. It's not a personal thing. That's what that is. Imam Ali gets up and walks off this dude. They're like, why? Why? He's like, because I didn't want my personal anger to influence my action of killing this dude. Now, the guy who came to Prophet Muhammad in the tent, and he said, well, what's religion? And then he left after a few minutes, and people were like, what did he ask? And what did you tell him? People were greedy for his knowledge. Greedy. They'd come from like miles and provinces and different countries just to sit with him and write down everything he said. He said, "Araftu dinahu kulluhu," something like this. I basically I made him know, or I allowed him to, I taught him all of religion. I taught him religion, kulluhu, something like this. Like, I taught him all of religion. I don't know the words. It's like I make some of these words up. It's because it's practice for me. And sometimes I misquote the Quran, and you shouldn't do that, frankly, as according to Muslims. But so they were surprised. They were like, how could you have explained all of religion? Like, we've been with you for months and years and stuff, and we still don't understand what the deal is, right? And that's the thing with the universe, guys. On the one hand, everything, and life. There's life, then there's the universe, then there's everything. So life, in as much as life is concerned, on the one hand, it's very simple. A kid, it's like the guy said, like basically everything I needed to know in life, I learned, what is this thing? In the sandbox, right, at play school. Be nice to people, share, don't pull people's hair, right? Don't slap people, don't steal, like, stuff like, be nice. It's obvious stuff, but then you got someone like Nietzsche. Okay, let me just say this about Nietzsche. I gotta go and break my fast. Nietzsche said God is dead, and people think that Nietzsche was an atheist or this or that, or he was like, I mean, it's a very compelling statement. God is dead. But what about the rest of the sentence? God is dead and we have killed him, and we will never be able to wash the blood off our hands. Right? So that's what that is. I'm making a movie here. I might as well just finish it off inside. I'm tired here, man. I gotta finish this damn thing off. So yeah, this is my little brother's house in Calgary, and it's a beaut, isn't it? What's really nice, as you probably figured out by now, the thing I like the best is the neighborhood. But yeah, I've been staying here while oh god, they're gonna get mad. Hina's here. Hina's on YouTube as well. Walaikum salam. How was your journey, Hina? Really? Why was it exceptionally good and not just an ordinary adventure? I just got to finish this off, man. So, okay, so now, anger, right? So anger, so what's religion? Religion is not to be angry, okay? Don't be angry. That's what it is, and it's like my elder brother. That's my elder brother, by the way. He came to visit, I came to visit, or some nonsense here in Calgary, year 2000 and, what is it? 16, 17. I'll take this downstairs, guy. I don't want to break your guys' zen here. It's nice to see you, So he came to visit us in what is this thing? I think it was 2018, right? And so it's like I was like slightly manic or something, and it's like I said something stupid to him. I got mad at him. Oh yeah, here's what it is. I hadn't seen him since 1998, and I was like, dude, I haven't seen you since 1998, and it's been 18 years, and I was mad at him as hell, and I was like, blah 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 blah. You know what he did? He basically, without even knowing it, he exemplified a statement of Imam Ali's. If you hear words you don't like, put your head down and they'll go over you. And here's the thing, he wasn't even upset afterwards. This is what amazes me. It's like one time I was in hospital, and there was this dude. He was a Ukrainian dude or something like this. I'm talking about psychiatric ward here. It was actually Peter Lougheed Hospital here in Calgary, and I was there for like 2-3 weeks or something like that in like 2012. So now, I met this Ukrainian dude who told me a story, and he basically had won a lottery, and his mom and all their relatives had stolen it from him, and they got him formed, as it were. There's something called the Form 3, where civil authorities, as in police, more or less, and then the justice system can, and supported by doctors or whatever, a quack psychiatrist, can take any person and say this person is, he's not mentally right there. This is a whole societal conditioning thing. So there's something wrong with this person, and then obviously they need a label to insert in there, and it's like they give you a form 1 or form 2 or form 3, which basically absolves you of all of your rights. They don't have to feed you or do, as far as I've seen, like, because this is what I've been through. They can pretty much, I mean, it's kind of like this gray area. So if you fall into that thing, then God help you, because they can force you to take any kind of drugs that they want. They will deprive you of your liberty and your possessions, everything, right? And you know what? The truth is that it's a necessary requirement in this day and age of meth heads and drug freaks and all this kind of crap. Now, on the other hand, the question of civil liberties. Well, personally, my personal take is safety comes first. That's what it is. I'm a freaking security guard. Safety comes first, right? So that's what that is. Now, Manli Hadal Kalb, the guy's rearing up his horse outside of the Prophet's tent, and the Prophet got angry at that point and said, Manli Hadal Kalb, who is there for this dog? Obviously, Imam Ali went and finished the dude off, but Imam Ali chopped the guy, Khalid bin Walid, into 2 equal parts. For what it's worth, 2 equal parts. And then he came back. Oh, this is interesting. He came back and he was swaggering. He was swaggering. Swaggering. Imam Ali was swaggering. Now people were like, wow, look at Ali. He's swaggering and he looks arrogant. And the Prophet smiled and said, Allah likes to see this in this situation. Anyway, so now, the guy in the tent, I've taught him all the religion, and they were like, what religion? And then he quoted from the Quran, مَنْ يَفْعَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَى وَمَنْ يَفْعَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَى. Whoever does an atom's weight of good shall see it, whoever does an atom's weight of evil shall see it. Right? So, there you go. Now, in terms of Buddhism, Buddha used to say it blows my mind, and I don't like talking about it because it's so intense, but I'll tell you what it is. And unfortunately, like I said, I don't have the answer to this question. It's something that there's no answer for, and nor can there be, perhaps. I don't know. You tell me. Think about this. The thing you call I, what is it? It's labels. It's thoughts and labels. So you'll say, okay, my name's, so for me, for example, my name's Hussein. I'm from Pakistan originally. I'm a Canadian. I'm 45. I have a bachelor's degree in business administration, minoring in computer science. These are all just labels. Then you might say, I got lots of friends, or I have no friends, or I'm a digital marketer, or I'm not a digital marketer, or whatever it is, right? So it's like, these are all facts, of course, but do they answer the question of who this thing is, this I? Because any of these facts can be some other fact. This is what atheists say. Like, I'm from Pakistan, you can convert that to Czechoslovakia. Digital marketer, you can convert that to landowner or landscaper, right? So therefore they become irrelevant to the question of the I. What else is there? There's your thoughts and feelings. Now this is a deep one. This is like a deep hole that I'm about to plunge you into. What are you going to be thinking about in 1 minute? Do you know what you're going to be thinking about in 2 minutes? Okay, do you know where your next thought is coming from? What are you going to be thinking next? So people ask me, how are you so creative? And it's like, well, I mean, we're all plugged into the same thing, whatever that is, right? And we all came from the same place, wherever that is. So that's what that is. It's pretty deep. So, and by the way, once again, so these labels and our thoughts, and you don't even know where your thoughts come from. So then what can you say about this I? Right? So I've avoided this question. There's a lot of stuff in there that I don't want to get plunged into, and frankly, I don't even think about it. As far as the Buddha was concerned, there's no I. There's no I. He had 7 solid arguments that he used to decimate his opponents with. Like, this is literally jihad bil ilm. Like, knowledge and the pen is mightier than the sword. I mean, he never wrote his stuff down ever, ever, right? And this is another fascinating thing, that his students created all these original Buddhist texts based on his speeches. He was, and of course, an amazing character, whoever he was, right? So that's what that is. I think I've wrapped most of this up. I mean, I'm tired and I've been rambling. Repressed anger, okay? So society conditions you to repress your anger, and when you repress your anger, it creates toxicity in your brain. Toxic chemicals begin to build up in your brain to the extent that they overflow and you start acting out. Or you start getting depressed or stressed or sad or mad or glad or bad. And at that point, you start taking pills, right? Because you got to pay the bills, right? That's the imperative. So being poor and obscure is where it's at, because you know what's really funny? I wanted to talk about I wanted to talk about materialism in this little segment, because I mentioned it, and like, guess some people were interested in what I wanted to say about love of the world. There's a famous statement of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, and his family. Love of the world is the root of all evil. Okay, it's the same as the biblical and the Judaic ethic, love of the world. However, it's not what you think it might mean. Anyway, I'll get back to you on that, and thanks for listening. An hour long, so this is like literally 2 in 1, so don't expect me to put something like this tomorrow or even until next week. I just want to let everyone know I'm doing okay after my episode in the park, and God is great and life is good. So now, if I'm not mistaken, the subscribe button's over here. But if you want to get emails from YouTube telling you that I've uploaded something, then that would be the subscribe notification. Hey, you can turn the instant notifications on your phone off. Listen, I'll leave that to you. You're a grown person. I'm hoping. I'm hoping you're a grown person, and that there's no kids watching this, because like there are lots of F-bombs in this one. Anyway, there's also a like button. The reason that you want, like, as a marketer, I don't care if you subscribe as much as the like and the comments, quite frankly. So I mean, if you do listen to this, I will get back to you. I mean, it's like, if I see comments sometimes years later, and I'll get back to them, right? If I don't get back to you, it's because I didn't see your comment. Really, that's what that is. So thank you for watching, and once again, you don't have to believe in God, but you do have to believe in good, all right?